just because Jesus resurrected on the first day of the week does not make the day holy. Nowhere does the Bible say that the day is holy because Jesus resurrected that day. Nowhere does it say we're supposed to go to church. That meeting that Paul held, according to Acts chapter 20, was an extraordinary meeting because he was leaving the next day. The people wanted to continue hearing him preach. And by the way, it was not a meeting on Sunday night. It was a meeting on Saturday night. I don't have time to show you that. And when people use 1 Corinthians 16 and verse 2, and they say that Paul was saying to take your offering to the church, in fact, it says that everyone was supposed to lay aside at home a certain sum the first day of the week. That's the way many versions translate it. The fact is, the Bible tells us, folks, that God sanctified and blessed the Sabbath because He rested on the Sabbath. In order for Sunday to be blessed and sanctified, God would have had to have rested on Sunday. And Jesus didn't rest on Sunday. He rested in the tomb on the Sabbath. Now, as you read this document carefully, you soon discover that John Paul II actually attributes the change to tradition and to Christians. Now, you have to read carefully. I think what he's doing, or what he did in this letter that he wrote, is that he wanted to appeal to Protestants. You see, Catholics traditionally have not used these verses from the Bible. Jesus resurrected the first day. He appeared to the disciples on Sunday night. And, Paul had this meeting on Saturday night, which they say is Sunday night. And, you're supposed to take your money to the church on Sunday, every first day of the week. Catholics never used to use these verses. They always used to say, the church changed it. The papacy changed it by the authority that God gave them. But John Paul II was a very ecumenical pope. And so he uses the verses that Protestants use in order to say, hey, I'm on your side. But when you read the document carefully, he actually reveals whom it was that changed the day. Notice paragraph 6. It seems more necessary than ever to recover the deep doctrinal foundations underlying the church's precept. Speaking about Sunday. So whose precept is it? The church's precept. And then he continues saying that in keeping Sunday, we follow in the footsteps of the age-old tradition of the church. Notice paragraph 18. He says, Christians made the first day after the Sabbath a festive day. Excuse me, who did it? God? No. He says Christians made the first day after the Sabbath a festive day. For that was the day on which the Lord rose from the dead. And who gave Christians the right to make that change? Interestingly enough, he doesn't say the Bible. He says Christians. By the way, as you read Dies Domini, it becomes a very frustrating document. Because John Paul II argues mostly from a philosophical perspective. He's a philosopher. And so he just philosophizes, and he reasons, he uses human reason to try and prove that Sunday is the day of rest. But he has no, thus saith the Lord from Scripture. So he says, in paragraph 27, Christian reflection and pastoral practice changed it. Since when does Christian reflection change the day of worship? Since when does pastoral practice have a right to change the day of worship? Paragraph 63, he says, Christians, called as they are to proclaim the liberation won by the blood of Christ, who felt? Christians, right? Felt that they had the authority to transfer the meaning of the Sabbath to the day of the resurrection.